in case your start button stops working on your 1983 or any other year Sabre, mostly Hondas, anything like that, you can pull the screws out the bottom. And then if you need to loosen this up to get this apart, see, I got the screws out, but I really want to get in there and get those screws out so I can get my switch. Those 2 screws are the guys I need. And then I got to be able to get this maneuvered. So I need to get in there. It looks like I could reach them, but at this point, this needs to be out of the way. So this needs to come off so that I can get this flipped up and then I can just get in there. So pull out these probably 5mm hex and just move this out of the way. If we need to, we can pull this off. And there is a ring right around here, a snap ring. You pull that off and then that's gonna loosen. That's gonna be it. You're gonna be able to pull that up here. But we also need to loosen up this guy right here. And that's bigger. So that's also a hex. If we don't need to do that, we won't. But for now, let's get this guy out of the way. Okay, I just pushed that out of the way, moved this a little bit so I could just get it moved. Now we're gonna try and get a screwdriver down in there. There is a metal tab right here that's holding that wiring in, and we may have to just bend that up so we can get that. There we go, yeah, that works. So if I can get this in there to free up my button, carefully don't strip it out. There, we got one. One's free. And now we just need this one. Good, good, good. All right. So those are both free. Careful not to lose any of these guys. And we can get in here. And this whole button system, this button right here, the start button down here, that's gonna lift up through here if I can get it cleared. Well, I pulled out all of these little guys, that little bent piece that I did. So we're trying to free up these wires. And I pushed this off as far as I could go out of the way without removing these throttle cables. That's what I'm trying to avoid here. So now I even disconnected the brake switch. The brake switch is disconnected here because that's all connected here. So what we want to do is just free up my button down in here, and all this comes with it. Try and get this out of the way and around the bar without taking it off the bar. Pretty crazy, but we should be able to do it. I don't know why it's not letting loose. It's just those 2 screws, but this has to fall in through there, and for some reason I gotta pry it up from the back, I guess. To make this a little easier and use an 8mm hex on this so I can loosen this up, I just want to get this guy off of the bar. Hopefully this will be enough to do that. See, now I can move this closer to where I want it. And hopefully I don't have to pull it the whole way off, but if so, we have that little clip to do and we can pop it right off. There we go. I took 2 screwdrivers and just pushed this clip apart, and now we can pull it off now that it's up and off. It's still a little stuck. There we go. There we go. All right. Now we can pop this up. Okay. Now I've got the handlebar up and out, and there's actually water running out of this cord. Running out of that sheath. That's interesting. Lots of water. So anyway, now we can dig out our button. Real easy. It should just slide up and out. This is the problem. We couldn't get it past the case here. It's got to kind of go past that first and then up and out. Make sure you don't dump your brake fluid all over the place. Make sure you set that in a way that it's not going to leak. Ideally, level like this, or somehow just make sure it's not leaking, or it's not gonna tip upside down. Kind of got that one balanced there. Okay. All right, there it is. We got the top right here. That's all connected. And then we have the bottom. We had to get that out of there This is our start button. It does fit down in there in the end, but look how tight that is down in there. So you got to pry that out. Just be very careful. You don't want to break anything. So button. And now we have our switch, which just got wet. So basically we're gonna pop this guy out, just pry it gently right on the edges here. And this can be dirty here, but not that big a deal. So this is not making contact when we push it. So let's see why. It looks pretty dirty in the interim, but let's get a small screwdriver, pop this guy open. All right, so opened it up. Here's what our contact patch looks like. Looks like we do have some dielectric grease, but I don't think we're making connection when we push that button in, because look at this guy right here. He's super dirty. Can't even see him. So we'll clean those up with a screwdriver. I'm just gonna wipe it down quick with paper towel. Then we'll scrape it with a screwdriver, make sure those contacts are all good. Here's what we got. Button inside. Button inside, it's got to be cleaned up a little bit. And if these were knocked off, that's probably another reason why it's not working. So these ride right in here and go back and forth, and they make connections. Look how dirty they are. They're just a mess. So we'll take a screwdriver and rip those up too. We don't have to take all this apart, but right there is what we're concerned about. Those metal guys have to make contact, and they're kind of filthy. So we'll clean those up also. All right, just by wiping the grease and stuff off, I did find our connectors. So there you go. Those four, when you push it in, it connects that and gives a starter a jolt. Here, I wiped off this. I didn't even scrape it yet. You got metal under there, so clean it up, get it back together. All right, when you scrape these, you gotta be very careful. They're both sitting on a little piece of board in there, a little plastic. There's a notch between them. And then they fit down the edges into this hole, and there's a spring there to keep them pressed up against the other end of the switch, which is down here. Scrape this with a screwdriver also. So these should be, look at that, way better than they were. So I'm gonna pop this back on. I'm gonna be careful about it because it's not super easy to do. So like this guy, see those little notches here? Fit right down straight on into the housing of the switch. So this has to be done just like this. I should not be doing this with my camera in my hand, but it's really pretty easy. As long as you don't mess up where your parts are sitting, you should be able to just slap that right down in place and lock it on. So now our button should be making connection again, and there's the button that goes on the end. It just fits on the back side there. So we're going to see if this button now works. All right, now before we put it all back together, got to do it in a pretty careful way to make sure everything mounts back to where it needs to be and is happy. So let's just at least give her a shot here. Make sure this is in the run position. Yep, we're in the run. It's in the middle. Off is on both sides. And then let's see if she shoots. Now she's hitting. It was that easy. Clean up the contacts. That easy. Clean up the contacts in your button. Okay. Well, that's the way to do it on your bike. If you watched my last video about this bike, you'll know that I took another switch and I opened this up and plugged it into the red. This is where the switch attaches. You don't have to do any of this if you do it on the bike. So there's the other switch I got working. So now I have two working switches, which will be good for the other project bikes in the future. So now when we put all this back together, make sure your button goes in there first. I guess we'll stick it on here first and see if I can sit it down in here. Just got to wedge it down in there really carefully and make sure everything lines up good. So I'm going to start with that and get the two screws back in and maybe the third screw before I put everything back up on the handlebar. All right, well, the good news is I got the switch itself down in there, but realize that the start button itself does not fit in from behind. It fits on the end from here. So all I have to do is just pop it on this end once I have this in. So I'll put these 2 screws down and make sure that's in the right spot, secure everything in, and we should be good to go. At this point, get everything back on, and I should have cleaned this up before I put it back together. You want to put this throttle tube on before you get the handlebar back on. Right now, I could still pull this off, so maybe I should clean this sucker up. She was flipping back pretty good, but now I think we need to clean it before I do everything else. But that's a different video. So right now, just want you to know your start button is good and you're ready to go. So test it before you put everything back together. But this is so greasy and grimy. I need to clean this up before I do put it all back together. We should put on new grips and make this maybe that much better. So anyway, thanks for following along. This was a pretty simple video, just showing you how to clean up the start button here. And then when you put this all back together, there should be a spot where it locks in, probably right about there. There should be a hole in the bottom of there. And then this guy has a notch in the bottom and he'll lock into place. So keep track of that as you're tearing this down, and you'll be good to go when you put it all back together, because it will fall right back in where you want it. That's so this stays in place when you're spinning this, because if this moves, this isn't going to work right. So, all right, lined everything up, cleaned this out. Now she's snapping back. That's what we want. Like I said, this thing is junk. But you can see I cleaned up inside. Oh, you can't see the bars there now. Anyway, everything's all back together. You need to snap this ring back into place. Make sure it drops into the right slot. Right there, just above where it sits. And then adjust this to where you want it. I think mine's adjusted the whole way out, right there. And then tighten that guy down. And then put your cap back on top of your shock tower, just like that one. And then we need to set this back up where it needs to be so that everything lines up the way it's supposed to be. All done, guys. See you in the next one.